Frankie, how's it going?
Yeah, very good. Very, very good. Just looking forward to football at the weekends again. I know we've got the Euros, but it ain't quite the same. A boy is missing actually going and watching football. I thought he would be really engaged by the Euros, especially England, but it took him about 15 minutes to creep off and go to the garden last night and start having a kick around. So he definitely isn't as football on the telly mad. He definitely is more of a go to the stadium and watch it live kind of boy. So we need a bit of football back in our lives as quickly as possible.
When you said I'm looking forward to, I thought you were going to say the signing of Wes Foderingham. You disappointed me there, Frankie. I got
It's
my hopes
big.
up.
To be fair, it's a player that I've always admired, and it is definitely someone that I'm looking forward to seeing line up in a West Ham shirt.
For anyone listening and not watching, that was tongue in cheek. Just a bit of a joke there. Did you see his wage though?
No, I didn't know.
He was on 12 grand at Sheffield United. 12 grand a week. So I'd imagine we
Mm.
possibly even got him on less than that, but given that it's like, a 2-year contract as well. So I think
It
that's
might make
maybe,
Sufal feel better about himself because he was
yeah.
on the lowest kids' wage before, and maybe he'll feel better now.
Yeah, when Sufal says I'm underpaid, he'll show him Wes Fodringham's
That's it. Sullivan will
pay
pull that up.
slip and say, "You think you're underpaid? What about this guy? 10 grand a week or something. He'll be on a 2-year contract." Anyway, all jokes aside, we're going to be discussing a little bit about transfer rumours, but not necessarily the transfer rumours themselves, because something I've quite enjoyed in the last couple of weeks, Frankie, is actually which transfer rumours I believe and don't believe. Let me explain. A couple of weeks ago, we were linked to Raheem Sterling. And now, I'm not going to lie, big fan of Raheem Sterling. I think he'd actually be quite a good player for us. So, look, I wouldn't buy him because of his wages, but if he was available for, I don't know, 80 grand a week or something in 10, 50 million, I'd get him in. I think he's a top player. However, when the rumour came out, as much as part of me thought, I think he'd do quite well, I still like him. Immediately, you're able to shut it down because you think, well, that's just not the type of signing we're going to make anymore. And if you go back 12 months and we were linked to Scott McTominay, Harry Maguire, James Ward-Prowse, those transfer rumours were really easy to believe because we felt like that's the type of profile of signing David Moyes would have liked to have had. Whereas this summer round, whenever we get linked to somebody like Raheem Sterling, I'm finding it quite easy to dismiss. But also, when we're linked to sort of an upcoming young player in European football, I'm finding it quite easy to believe. And weirdly, although it's just transfer rumours, and I don't necessarily believe them all, I'm quite excited by that, actually. The fact that I can actually believe that we are targeting young, exciting footballers rather than expensive, proven Premier League players. And it's given me some good vibes, actually. And I think that's maybe the reason I'm quite calm, actually. We've only done one signing. I'm okay with that. I'm not too worried just yet. Some people are starting to get a little bit worried though, and because the transfer rumours at the end of the week are mainly around players leaving rather than players coming in. So I think that's played into it, but I think it's because I take that with a pinch of salt as well. I'm not too bothered.
Yeah, there is a little bit of nervous tensions out there and a few grumbles that I'm not there yet. I think we went to South America, or Tim supposedly went to South America, and there's all this talk that he's gone out there. Look, he probably went out there at the right time because obviously Copa America is now starting. So I think that's something that people haven't really maybe considered. And we've obviously got the Euros active as well. So it was always going to be a slower transfer window to get started than other transfer windows. I'm not surprised that we haven't done any more business than what we've done so far. I think a lot of people wanted business done early. I think people would have rather seen progressing. I think that's what's getting people's emotions heightened is because there's nothing that seems that concrete. I agree with you, there's a lot of rumours floating around, there's a lot of players that we're linked with. Are there any that are really sort of seeming like they're moving along and we're really serious and there's offers on the table and so on? I think people would rather have seen that, but again, it's just when there's international football, it's just a weird time. Things happen later, and if it was a different time right now and we didn't have any, if it was next year, the next window, for example, I think you'll see us approach things in a very, very different way. So we did go out, we got a player over the line early doors, very unlike us. It shows that we're active, it shows that we're doing a bit. But I think we've all just got to accept that, for the next however long, if we are going to go and try and tap into those good pool of players, that it's not going to be something that's going to be done in, the next few weeks. It's going to take a bit longer than that. So I'm not twitchy. I'm quite comfortable with how things are at the moment, but I guess time will tell.
I think I agree with what you said about Brazil. The other reason it's important to go there early is, of course, the Brazilian domestic campaign is currently ongoing, so they're playing games. Therefore, the risk of injuries increase. So going and getting your man early and essentially getting him out of that league as quick as you can, so he can't get injured, is important. So I think the strategy of going over there early doors is important, because I gave Tim a bit of stick for going over there last summer at the end of the window, and I stand by that. I think going there for the last few days of the window was a bad move. You have to come back with your man, otherwise it's not worked out. He's gone over there early. It's fine. Do you feel like the Brazilian, whatever you want to call it, plunder into the Brazilian leagues come to an end now? It feels like he's got his man, failed to get Fabrizio Bruno, and that's it now.
I think so. I think that was probably the man. We've got him over the line. I think there probably was one or two more that might have been on there. I think they haven't moved forward fast enough. I think that's done. I think we've moved on to other things now. Like say, like you said, the season's on over there. Copa America just starting. I think that's why we went out there early. I think that's why he sort of got out there right at the end of the season as quickly as possible. And I think that little expedition that he's had out there is probably well and truly done now.
Yeah, until next summer, I'd imagine we will continue to scout the Brazilian league, and we might go over there next summer as well. But I think for this transfer window, I'd be surprised if we were to dive back into any Brazilian-based players. I think it will see more of a focus on the European ones. I believe the transfer rumour that we bid for Samu, that Atletico Madrid striker, came from Fabrizio Romano. So I do believe that, but there's also rumours that they're demanding like stupid money for him, 60-70 million or something that they've put on his as the asking price. They don't really want to sell him, but it's a case of if you are going to buy him, so then you're going to pay well above the odds, because we're going to cash in on him. I guess the sort of availability of some of the younger strikers in European football, Sesko, is already been decided. We're mid-June, and he's like, I'm going to sign a new I'm going to stay at Leipzig, sign a new contract. I'm staying here, thank you very much. So it's like, right, okay, there's one of the young strikers of European football now unobtainable for the next 12 months. Who else is out there? So I think Atletico Madrid are perhaps trying to take advantage of the market for that. And I'm okay with, there's been a lot of talk about the transfer budget, and I've always usually, unless circumstances dictate, I'm usually of the opinion I'd like us to bring in one or two sort of big ticket signings, and then use the lesser expensive players to fill up the squad if need be. And I think a centre back and a striker is where I'd like us to spend big this summer. And signings like Foderingham, he's replacing Nathan Trott. Nathan Trott's away to Copenhagen for $1.5 million. I don't think we'll ever see Foderingham play a game. We might see him in the Betway Cup because Ariola's with the French squad, so he'll have an extended leave at the end of the Euros. So we'll possibly see him for the Betway Cup against Celta Vigo.
Is that been confirmed? Is it?
I think so. Okay. I'm sure it's Celta Vigo. 10th of August, I think we're playing Celta Vigo in the Betway Cup. So we might see him then. But again, we won't see him after that. So Foderingham in, I think Ben Johnson's contract needs sorted, whether he's signing a new one or he's off ski, because if he's off, he needs replaced. So I think almost the club's priority before we start moving on with other transfers, I think you need that situation clarified, because if he's sticking around, there's an argument that you don't need a right back this summer, that Soufal and Johnson will be okay for the next season. But if he does go, then you need a right back. And suddenly, whatever budget you've got, you're going to need to allocate a bit of that to bring in a replacement for Ben Johnson. So I think the club almost need to clarify his situation. To a lesser extent, Mubama as well. I think we don't really need to spend money to replace him. You just sort of need to promote Callum Marshall, really, and he becomes a third choice striker. But I think the Ben Johnson one's possibly causing a little bit of a stumbling block. But how would you like to see the supposedly limited transfer budget divided up? Are you somebody that's a bit like me, big there, and sort of freebies and loans if required? Or, let's spread the money about a little bit and bring in quantity?
No, I think that's the right way forward. I think there was that talk, wasn't there, where we said, there's no point in bringing anybody in unless it improves the first 11. And I think that is for the core of the budget spend. That's what we need to, especially when we've already done 30 million on someone who isn't necessarily going to line up in the first team week in, week out yet. So we definitely need to make sure that our next spends are first team players, people that we're planning on being starters every single week. We need improving, we need freshening up. We know that because we got really sort of stagnant last season. So we definitely need a new injection of life into that starting 11, and I'd much rather see that on a couple of big players, big signings, and then we can go and play clever for the rest of it. And actually, that's again why I guess I'm not going on the turn as quickly as other people with this window, because I still feel that even if we go with that approach, maybe in the past we've been guilty of not playing those cheaper options too cleverly. I actually think with Tim around us, we might actually go and uncover a few gems for those cheaper options. I think some of the players we've been linked with, like defenders for like 10 million, but they've not been old, past it has-beens. We're trying to sign 10 million players, but are actually still got a bit of potential, still at a decent age, still can come in and be really good players for West Ham. So again, I'm happy with that approach, because I do think we will spend those more clever purchases better than what we have done previously.
I completely agree, because if he is a good, and I'm just calling him a director of football, we know what he is, right? But his role is a director of football, essentially. If he is a good one, and I believe he is, I think he's a really good scout anyway, then he'll be able to find decent players for a handful of million here and there. They just won't, they probably won't be English based. They probably won't be homegrown. It might be out the Belgium league, and it might be a punt where it might work out, it might not. But like you said, you'd expect us to bring in younger players for that 5 million rather than somebody that is a little bit of a stopgap. And but like Danny Ings. Now, I'm obviously a fan of Danny Ings, but nobody saw Danny Ings coming in and thinking, there's a guy for the next 5 years. Nobody, just everyone thought there's a guy for the short term, right? It's a plaster, but we're going to have to come back to this position in a couple of seasons' time at best and replace Danny Ings, right? That's what it was. It was a stopgap. And I like to think that maybe we are past that. And I think if you're a director of football and you're able to go sign players for 30 million, I don't think that's very difficult. I think most people could probably do that. Go find a good player for 30 million. Not difficult, right? But actually 10 million, 5 million, that's where I think you'll find really good directors of football and the average director of football. I think that's where you'll get your salt, what they're worth. You'll get it out of that one. And I think it becomes a bit of a challenge for Steidten. So, well, what can you come up with? And that Fabrizio Bruno one's a really good example. 28 years old, Brazilian international, 10 million.
Yeah.
That's a good deal. I've never watched him play, but just going by what people had said to me and reading reports and stuff, but even just the profile of him, it's not bad. It's not bad. Is there any positions where you're wanting to see us pump the money into?
I was still of the opinion when we sort of had conversations at the end of the season and Lopetegui was coming in. I said on those previews that I don't think we'd splash any cash on a big forward. I just didn't see it, but we've been linked with a lot of forwards and a lot of people feel that's where we will spend money. But just with the fact that I think Antonio would be the sort of player that he would feel that he could get another season out of and do the role that he would need him to do, that was what made me nervous. And then the fact that he can also shoehorn Bowen in from the right if he had to, the fact that Kudus could potentially play a role down there, I never felt like that was going to be his number one priority. I always thought a ball playing centre back was going to be something that he would feel he needs, because I don't think we've got that available to us at the moment. So I think he's going to need that. And I also felt that the sort of wide defensive players were also players that I think he was going to need to just improve, just to play the way that he typically likes to play. So I wouldn't be surprised if that's where we saw some money being spent. I think the left-hand side of midfield is a glaringly, obvious position that we need to fill as well, just because we haven't had anyone decent in there for a long time now. We've never seemed to have a natural an out-and-out left-sided player who can sort of, just naturally play in that position. So we've tried to shoehorn people in there all the time, and we've never really had someone who's comfortable playing in that position. So I think with the way he plays, with the width that he likes to play with, I think that might be something that we tend to go and break the bank on. But I just don't think it will be a striker. We all want the striker, don't we? It's the glory position. It's the position that we all get excited about. I just was never sure that was where we was going to spend the money. And I started to believe that maybe I got that wrong, because we did seem to be linked with quite a few centre forwards, and there was a lot of rumours around centre forwards. But I still wouldn't be surprised if the money is spent on a centre half and a left-sided wide player, whether that be defensively or attacking, especially with those links that we're seeing with Emerson now, potentially going out to somewhere else, Milan. There's more and more rumours around Emerson potentially moving on. And that says to me that maybe the club has sort of turned around to him and said, well, there's an option here. There's a lot of interest around Emerson. If he goes, we can cash in a bit on him, and then you can reallocate that budget to bringing in that left-sided player that you need.
Yeah, we've been linked to a couple of left backs as well, and I've dismissed them really, because it's like, well, we've got Emerson, we've just signed up Creswell, we don't need a third one. But maybe there is something in that rumour of Emerson, because like you said, it was AC Milan, now it's Inter Milan he's been linked to as well. So maybe there is something in that one. Is there any centre back in particular you're hoping to see us move forward? Been linked to quite a few. Kilman domestically, and then Greaves from Hull City, but most of them are from abroad.
Yeah, I mean, Kilman's the big one. I've got a very good friend of mine who's a Wolves fan, and messaged me saying, are you excited by the prospect of Kilman? They're licking their lips at the idea of the money that we're going to pay for him. They can't believe that the price tag that's been put on his head, to be honest. They feel like he's a good player, but certainly not worth the sort of money that we're looking at spending on him. And even when you say it out loud, the figure that we're looking at spending, it just sounds crazy.
45 million.
Yeah, mad. Absolutely. And I understand you pay a premium when it's, that sort of proven Premier League, already been doing it. I get it. There's always a premium, but it seems well over the odds for me. I don't mind him as a player. I'd happily pick him up at the right money. But the figure that's being touted around at the moment is far too much for me. If it was a choice of that amount for him or go elsewhere, look, I haven't got the answers. I'm not the scout for West Ham, but I would think you should probably be able to find a better value for money than that. But again, if that's the man that Lopetegui's highlighted as the man that he needs, again, put up the money, go get him, just get it done. Because if you could say, oh yeah, there could be better value for money out there, whether that be a swing of 10, 15 million, whatever, to then go and start looking elsewhere, then dilly-dally with it, then not quite get it right, and then start going into negotiations, and then all of a sudden it doesn't get done, and then we make a panic buy. I would actually rather us overspend and get the man that the manager highlighted as his first choice option, if you like, to do and play the way he wants to next season, than do the West Ham thing of try and go and cheapskate it and end up with, a last minute rash purchase because we haven't got anything done.
Yeah, I'm a bit like that as well. I think it's too much for Kilman. I'm a Kilman fan, but not for 45 million. Especially, even if you believed our transfer, I know there's talk at the minute that our transfer budget's quite skinny, but even if you take it as 100 million, which is generous, for like half of that on going on Kilman is far too much. And that's with the generous transfer budget. Like, we've already spent 25 million of it on one player, so we're down to 75 now, 45, and leaving us 30 million for the rest of the team. And obviously we could sell some players, but the players we're looking to move on, ain't worth that much. The only player that we could cash in on and get a decent fee for is Flynn Downs, but we're looking to move on Danny Ings, 6 million. It's good to get him off the books and it's good to receive a fee for him, but you're not doing much for 6 million for a striker in the Premier League. But 45 for Kilman just seems far too much. However, and it all depends on what you believe. But I do believe that it's possibly Lopetegui's number one choice. I think Alex Garcia was. We failed to get him. He's going to Leverkusen. And I feel like maybe Kilman's sort of his next one on the list. Now, I'm putting 2 and 2 together here, Frankie, and I want to know if you think I'm coming up with 4 or 5. Now, I didn't know, and I just said it in a video, and people told me. So thanks to the subscribers, I know Alex Garcia was the skipper before moving to Leverkusen, and now obviously Kilman's captain at Wolves. Do you think Lopetegui's looking to bring in a captain at West Ham?
Yeah, I think that makes perfect sense, to be honest. I don't think you've misread that at all. I think we're screaming out for it. Regardless of whether it's 100% going to be the new club captain, we certainly need more leaders. We certainly need more people with that type of mentality, with people who are a bit more vocal and just natural leaders on the football pitch. I think we lack that massively last season. And even if, like I say, he doesn't come in and instantly become club captain, mate, we need someone in line who is potentially going to be the next West Ham captain, because at the moment you take it off Zuma, and because a lot of people are saying that, that probably didn't work out for the best last year. Well, who else are you going to give it to at the moment? There isn't anyone there, is there? So,
is there anyone in general that you're hoping we start bidding for in summer? It's basically like a little bit of a Frankie wish list, really. But is there anyone that you've looked at and thought I'd love him at West Ham?
Well, it's interesting, isn't it? I thought we would see a bit more of that from the Euros. Normally, players come out of international tournaments where you go, oh, I like him, or, oh, he would be a really good fit, and so on. There's actually the ones that I've liked haven't really impressed that much so far. So I've always had my eye on a few strikers. I've been a fan of Patrick Schick for a long time. I thought he looked like just a typical West Ham fit, big, strong, can run that line, but also better with his feet. And I thought he was someone that would be a perfect fit for West Ham. But haven't seen him do it so far. Obviously, like you mentioned, Sesko, I had keen eyes on watching him. If Arsenal are putting him as their number one choice, I'm watching him thinking I can't really see it. Well, or maybe I can see it because Arsenal haven't been particularly good at getting that position right for a long time. So, but yeah, nothing's really stood. I'm still watching with keen interest. I think we'll probably see a little bit more as the tournament progresses of people who sort of stand up and make things happen. But the tournament so far has been all those young world beaters are proving themselves. The Wirtz, the Musialas of the world, they're the people who are looking really good. Scamacca hasn't done much for me so far with Italy. He hasn't looked like I think a lot of people sort of touted him to set this tournament alight, and the season that he had with Atalanta, people have been watching him with a keen interest. But he hasn't really done it. So I don't know. There's nothing that really springs to mind at the moment of someone that I'm thinking, look, or even a rumour that I've heard that I've gone, that's the man. But again, I've almost come away from even feeling like that. I don't look at the rumours as much as I used to, and I don't really have my own opinion on it as much because I'm so confident that Steidten will find someone that I don't even know as a footballer, isn't even on the radar, isn't someone that is necessarily when you only watch other leagues from afar, you don't really know. You know that I like Soulé. I think Soulé's brilliant. If I'm going to pick one out of one that we've been linked with, Soulé is the man. I've been watching him for a long time. He's been a keen interest of mine. He's someone that I really think is a brilliant footballer, and I'd love to see him at West Ham. So Soulé's probably my pick of the bunch. But yeah, I don't get as involved in it as much because I just fully entrust in the man. Maybe I'm being a bit naive, and I think it's too much confidence in him. But
yeah. Well, if you're going to say confidence, maybe, but belief and optimism, I think, is allowed. I think it's nice when people have positive feelings and just a little bit of hope and belief. It's a nice thing to have that. And when people, I'm a bit the same as well. It's like I said in the video yesterday or the day before, I said I'm going to assume Steidten's good until he gives me reasons to think otherwise, rather than assume he's crap and then wait for him to prove me wrong, kind of thing. I'm just willing to give him the benefit of doubt that he's going to do well in this transfer window. Now let's see what you come up with, and we'll obviously judge him next season and the season season after. I think your Sule player, I've never heard of him, but when I was having a flick round the new Hammers Chat thing coming out next season, Frankie knows what it is. Begins with Y. Begins with Y. I was having a look at Sule. Well, actually, what I did do, I looked at the top dribblers in European football, and it was the top 5 leagues, obviously. And Kudus was third. I assumed Kudus was number 1, but he was third, and there was 2 players ahead of him, and Sule was one of them.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, okay, right, okay. I knew of him because we've been linked to him and spoke to Cal about him and stuff. And I know you're a fan of him. So I was like, oh, right, okay. But there's only one other guy above Sule and Kudus. And then that's where I was looking at Calafiori as well. 2 days later, scores an own goal for Italy. I thought, there's your West Ham. Hey, linked to West Ham. He's knocking him back the net. Sorted. But I thought he had an erratic performance against Spain, but I've been thoroughly impressed with them because I was looking forward to watching Lamine Yamal. I've never seen him play, a 16-year-old playing at Euros, and then Williams on the left-hand side. I think they've both been absolutely fantastic. I've enjoyed watching the Euros. I think it's been a brilliant competition so far. There's been some players that have stood out for me, but I've never heard of them. So there's 1 or 2 players I think he looks good, like I said, Ba, who I thought played really well for Denmark in the first game, didn't start against England. Clicked on him and found out he was a Benfica player. So like, okay, well, he's not even like an undiscovered talent. He's literally at Benfica. I just don't watch Portuguese football. So I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying it anyway. Frankie, is there anything else you'd like to discuss before we head off for this week?
No, nothing. I think we just all need to, as I said before, there's been a few comments around it, but this situation with the concessions, just keep putting pressure on. I just think everyone's trying to sort of get in the right... Handle it in the right way, handle it in a positive way, do something that is not letting them get off lightly with this decision. There's been a few ways that people have tried to engage people that I don't think have necessarily been the correct way to go about it. I think there is a way that we can do it in a positive way rather than all going into the season negative and with something that's a cloud over it. Because I do want to start this season afresh. I want to start it on a positive note. I want to make sure that first game, obviously, everyone's behind them. I think the Betway Cup's going to be brilliant because we haven't had it for a few years. We've got a fresh start. Let's all get over there, all get together because we haven't had that togetherness for a while. All have a nice, it's normally always a nice sunny day as well when it's the Betway Cup. So we can all go over there, enjoy the sunshine, have a few beers and get ready for the new season. So I don't want anything to come in the way of that because that's really important that we, hit the ground running, have a positive start. Hey, those fixtures, we don't leave the capital for the first 8 games. I mean, that's mad that all of our first 8 games are in London. So we haven't got to travel far. I think the fixture list was kind of kind to us. There's been a couple of the previous years, everyone goes, oh, what a bad start that is. What a terrible start that is. Look, there's no particularly bad or easy starts in the Premier League. It's always tough. But the fact that we haven't got to travel for the first 8 games is a real positive thing. And I think we can really hit the ground running. So don't want to detract from that, but also if there are petitions and there are things that we can get behind and there are things that we can do and things that we can support to try and keep the pressure on them a little bit to make sure that the West Ham family isn't torn apart and that we all stay. I think this season is all about West Ham United. We've had a bit of division. Well, this could be the thing that actually unites us all and we all take a stand and we all say, no, we're not having that. We are all going to come together again. We are all going to stick with each other and support each other. And actually, the lifers who have been here for all their life watching West Ham, it ain't fair on them. And the new breed of West Ham that's coming through as well, we need to inspire them and we need to make sure that there's availability and opportunity for them to come and enjoy watching West Ham and getting behind the club. So I'm all for this pressure, mate, but in a positive way.
Love that. Well said. And we're going to leave it there. Frankie, thank you very much once again. Thoroughly enjoyed that. If you guys at home have enjoyed it, please do drop a like on the video by clicking thumbs up. Subscribe to Hammers Chat, myself and Frankie. Catch you next week.